there's kind of a tier of options, and it starts at, top dollar on market sale. And then it kind of goes down. We can't do that. You don't have money to fix up your house. So, here's maybe this wholesale cash option. Oh, you owe too much on your property. Okay, let's go to the next step down. Can we do a creative finance offer? Can we take over your loan? Can we seller finance a portion of it? Can we do a hybrid of both of those? And then if that's option, great, let's do that. If we can't do that, now we got short sale. Let's go down to that option. And then it just keeps going down.
I love this. You're giving them a menu of choices based on their circumstance, and that's not something that retail agents are going to do.
Welcome to the Kaasch and Dash Show with Josh Kolbo.
Josh, is it weird coming to record a podcast in basically your office?
Well, not so much because I never come here. So it's only a couple of times I come a month. So
oh, it is?
It's so good. Yeah.
Now, you moved here to Omaha from California. And was that an extreme form of social distancing? Because wasn't this during the pandemic that you moved?
No, we only moved, I think we moved a year ago today.
Is that right? Wasn't that long ago?
Yeah, we were driving today. We closed on our house, I think, today that we...
A year ago today?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a coincidence.
You're making some waves here.
Yeah, it was a Friday. I mean, it might have been the 16th, but yeah, I think we closed on selling our house in California. The same day we closed on buying our house here in Gretna. So it was cool.
You reached out to me that you were moving, and I don't remember. Yeah. I think it was well before you came to town, right?
I reached out, I think, in August or July, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we moved in May, and then I was just doing the dad thing all summer. Didn't do anything real estate, no work related. And then when I was like, all right, school's starting here soon, I wanted to get my license transferred over, and that's when I'd been asking a few people. Dan Lease, I think, was in SubTo, and so we kind of connected briefly. He recommended
the funny part about Dennis is that he actually has not done anything with SubTo. He just paid for the program.
He just responded to questions when there's something about Omaha.
Yeah, he's good about that.
Yeah.
So that's funny. Why Omaha?
Well, me and my wife grew up in Kearney.
I knew you had a 308 area code.
Yeah.
That was actually on my list of questions.
Like you're a Kearney native?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I went to college at Kearney.
Oh wow.
I was in Kearney 2 weeks ago. We were in a wedding. Yeah. My wife went to UNK.
I don't think I knew that about you.
Yeah. We grew up there. My wife, I did more than my wife. She moved around a little bit in different Nebraska cities, and then I was born there, moved away and for college.
Okay, so college has got you out to California?
I actually went to Tennessee for college, Nashville, Tennessee.
Like I'm watching the zigzag.
Yeah. I was like, I wanted to get out of Nebraska as fast as I could, and I was super into soccer.
Yeah.
And at that time, soccer was not like a cool sport in Nebraska, and it's still not that cool.
Still not.
But there is a lot more soccer
There's some
now.
Huge soccer people right now.
With the union and everything, and there's a bunch of little semi-pro teams, and they've got the stadium coming, and that's going to be a big thing for North Omaha and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool, like what soccer is doing here in Nebraska, but it wasn't a thing.
Let's backtrack here. You're in Kearney. You go to Tennessee for college. You attended what college?
It's called Lipscomb University.
Okay, and what did you study there?
Soccer.
Yeah, soccer. That was the main thing. They were a Division I school, and
you had a scholarship.
Yeah,
Nice.
And then so wanted to go there to play soccer. It's also a Christian school, so it kind of like checked a lot of the boxes for me. And then it was in a cool city. Nashville, obviously, was very cool, and I was really into music at that point too, and so a lot of concerts and stuff that you could go to. A lot of country, which I hated, but I saw so many country concerts. So
the new country is like wearing on me. I've been listening to the Shabuzi Pandora station.
Wearing on you, or you like it better now?
I like it.
It's more poppy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I kind of like that rock.
It's almost a crossover.
Rock,
yeah,
rock
the crossover country. Yeah. Other than that, I'm not a huge country fan.
Same,
especially old country. They're real twangy. My dog died. I had to shoot my horse. I do like Johnny Cash though.
Anyway, okay. So 5 years. How long were you there?
I was there about 3 years, I think it was.
Okay.
I did a little stint back in Hastings, Nebraska, because they had a really good soccer team. I came back. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I came back to Nebraska, did a year there. Then I went to Spain for half a year.
Oh.
Then I went back to Nashville.
For school?
Yeah.
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 You were not a good soccer player there, were you?
No. They were really good.
Yeah,
so.
that's big fish, small pond, meat, big pond, small fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey guys, this is Ted with the Kash Dash Show. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. I gotta get back to this Rio group. Everybody say hi. Yeah!
And okay, so then from Spain you went to
Back to, I went back to Nashville, I think, after that. I actually don't remember now.
It's all a blur.
So
Yeah.
what took you to California?
Well, I went to Spain and I was studying business at school.
And
then-
Spanish.
Well,
right?
and Spanish was my minor.
Yeah.
And then I came back from Spain and they're like, oh, you could graduate in 3.5 years and save, 25, 30 grand and just switch your minor to your major because you got so many like dual Spanish credits. So I was like, sold. I didn't know what
That's
I
an
wanted.
investment property.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll just graduate, 3.5 years. And then I had also been offered an internship at Oakley in Southern California.
The sunglasses?
Yeah. Sunglass company. So I was like,
How many pairs of Oakleys do you own?
This
You
is
know-
one of my questions right now, right? I almost led off with that question. How many pairs of Oakleys do you own?
well, I should be careful what
They're
I say here,
customer
but-
giveaways, right? In air quotes.
Oh, they were like candy. They would just give them out like everywhere. And before I even worked there, the guy his name was Andy, he was so cool. And I was in college, like super cheap. Like I didn't buy anything. I bought my first pair of Oakleys from the Buckle because my dad worked at the Buckle forever. So I got, 40% off or something. And
The Buckle, Carney.
yeah, the Buckle, Carney, it's still there. And so they sent me like 3 pairs in the mail as a college student. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is more money than I've ever made in a summer just getting Oakleys. So I probably have about like 15 or 20 still at this point. At one point, I had probably like
Wow.
50.
Oh, wow.
And then I just was like, I don't need all these. So I just started selling them on eBay when I was done working there and, made some decent change.
I bet you
That is awesome. So, real quick, if you don't mind. So, my wife worked for a company, a consumer products company that had a lot of branded apparel, all kinds of giveaways. They did golf tournaments. They sponsor major league teams, and across the gamut here.
I still want to know what company this is.
And I don't want to get her in trouble. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on this, but she got so many like Yetis. We have a half, like, I'm not kidding. I have an entire shelf of various sizes of Yeti coolers. And these were when I don't know what they are now.
Not just
but
cups.
They were like
Coolers.
400, 400, 500.
They're
I don't even know.
$600 now, yeah.
Dude, you want to?
Yeah, I'll take
I'm
one.
just saying,
Yeah.
I could hook you up.
Yeah, I'm in.
But we have so many things in our house. Like I was getting Pro V1 golf balls and with their logo on it and like all this stuff. And then, sadly she doesn't work there anymore. But that stood out to me because then you worked for Trek, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So-
and that was the coolest perk of Oakley is like all these companies, they have like all these, I don't know, hookups with each
Yeah.
other. And so they would like give you stuff, you give them stuff. And it was, you didn't make them a bunch of money there, but you got all these cool perks and cool gear and stuff from other companies.
I
and-
now see how the whole subject to thing came into play because he's been I will deal in trade type of a guy.
It doesn't all have to
for
be
a while.
money. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be
price
money.
terms.
Yeah.
So you got some Trek bikes too then?
Yeah, I've had a few Trek bikes
Free?
as well. They're not free, but
They
got
went to customers, Ted.
yeah, we got good discounts on it and everything, and so that was every year I'm getting at least 2 or 3 new bikes, and then your chain gets a little bit dirty and you got to replace your chains. You're like, I don't want to replace the chain. I'm just going to sell this $10,000 bike. So
What were you getting What were you getting a $10,000 bike for?
dude, to fly down the mountain and
No. I mean, but what were you paying for the $10,000 bike?
I don't know if they want me to say, but way less than what a dealer even pays for it. So yeah, pretty hefty discount.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like a 3-figure number.
Ted's not going to let you off the hook here.
I mean, it was like 50% or so,
Yeah.
roughly. Yeah.
Well, you mean you
Yeah.
work there. You should be getting
Yeah.
huge
No, and
discounts if not
I was
free.
a sales rep, so
Yeah.
we needed to have all the newest stuff to, showcase with all the different reps or all the different shops. And I would ride with the shop owners a lot of times with the new bikes. And I just wanted to be a rep that also used the product too. So
And then you always had the matching Oakleys to your bike.
yeah, there's always a different color for, whatever kit you had. So
Now you had 100? What was it? You were a territory sales manager at
yeah,
one
I started out as I switched from Oakley because they had gone through, a big Reorg with Luxottica. That's like the biggest sunglass company in the world, and they bought Ray-Ban, Oakley, a bunch of the other big brands out there. I think they own most of them now, and they have a lot of the finance and accounting and salespeople all under one house or under one roof. And so they kind of started consolidating. I was like, I was really low on the totem pole at that point. So I got really into cycling during that time with Oakley because a lot of the people there were into it and started racing. And Southern California, you can basically ride your bike every single day. And if there's a little bit of breeze one day, you're like, I'm not going to go out. But you can go out, 360 days of the year. So
just like Omaha.
Yeah, just like Omaha.
Is that the thing when you look back on your time in California? What do you miss most? The weather?
Maybe the terrain, probably the most. Yeah, terrain and weather. Obviously, I have a lot of good friends there and everything. I spent about 12 years in Southern California, then Santa Cruz in Northern California, and I love a lot of the people there. I don't love the prices and a lot of different things about California, but it's hard to match some of the terrain like Yosemite and all the Sierras and the Santa Cruz Mountains, all these different mountain ranges, just like everywhere. A lot of redwood forest and trees.
It's so beautiful.
There's no better place to be than in the forest with redwood trees all around you, and you're the only one out there besides maybe a mountain lion that's watching you. But just it's so quiet, so peaceful, and you can just be riding your bike through there. So I miss that part for sure.
I did not experience that because the last time I was in Redwoods, I chaperoned, I think, 40 high school youth kids. We all, we all stayed,
no silence.
We all stayed in cabins outside San Francisco.
Yep.
But it was so beautiful. It was amazing down there. So what was the deciding factor to leave California and come to here?
Mainly a family decision and just an opportunity to reset.
Babysitters?
Some babysitters, grandparents.
So they're here in Omaha?
Yeah. My wife's parents and mine are all in Kearney at this point.
It's a long drive for a babysitter.
But they make it. So
really,
they come.
We're gonna have date night on Friday. Can you come watch the kids for a couple hours?
We use the gym for that. We get creative. So the gym's got parents' night out. Shout out to Lifetime Fitness. They crush it.
Genesis does that too.
And it's amazing. So we utilize that at least a couple times a month.
Perfect.
For parents' night out, get some date nights in and everything. But the grandparents are great. They come out. If we want to do a weekend trip or something, they'll come out. Or we did that talk last week at the One Talks realtor event with you, Ted, and we didn't have a babysitter that day. So I just called my mom, and she was a great sport and drove 2.5 hours and watched the kids for the day when they're out of school and everything. So, yeah.
What do you think about that event we were at?
I thought it was great, especially Jay Morales at the end just
killed it.
Everybody's crying and laughing, literally crying.
I was crying.
Yeah. So that was very moving. I don't even know how he tied that into real estate, but he did. And it was all about his 50-mile march.
His speaking skills have gotten 10x. We had him on the podcast a couple months ago. And then he had a really close friend, somebody I used to be close to back in the day, but Kyle Loftus died from 1320, which his funeral's happening right now. So shout out to him and his family. Hope everybody's doing okay. But yeah, he ended with that and what they're fighting for and everything he did for it. And my gosh, it was waterfall.
Not a dry eye in the house.
No, you couldn't. I'm not a crier, and I was just red-eyed and teary. I couldn't, it was rough.
Yep.
Wow. Well, sorry to say I missed that one. But okay, so speaking of not knowing how to tie it into real estate, let's talk about what happened in 2020 for you. Was that your first foray into buying investment property?
Why'd you bring up 2020?
No reason.
We're not supposed to talk about 2020 anymore,
That's true.
Everybody talks about
that 1 year. What happened there?
Well, if you're in California, that was multiple years.
Oh, it was 2 years.
That's true.
It was
one
insane.
One of my good friends moved back to Sutherland, Nebraska from San Diego. Lived in Ocean Beach because he had a construction company, and he's like I'm completely failing. And then he had a live music company, and he's like, I can't do anything. And he's like, I'm gonna either go completely bankrupt or I need to get out of here right now.
Yeah.
And just getting out of the state was hard.
Well, it was an interesting time for me too. I was working in the bike industry still at that point, and it shut off for about a month and a half, and then the bike industry just went through the roof. Never had a bigger spike in bike sales ever. And
good commission checks.
Oh yeah. I was like, this is like great money that I'm making now. And I was, for the bike industry, I thought I was making decent money the first couple of years I was in that job. And it just, I doubled and then doubled again my territory like 2 years in a row. And I think I was the top sales rep for 2 years in a row, top number 1 or 2 out of 40. But if you're going to be the top rep and then you have a big hockey stick up, and then you have a hockey stick down, now you're going to be the worst, the worst rep for a couple of years because you're going off of the quotas from the previous years.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your year-over-year numbers are...
Yeah. So that got a bit challenging. And that's kind of when I started getting into the real estate realm. Was in COVID, we were no longer allowed to go to accounts that we would travel to. I covered Northern California. And
you're like, I'm a realtor. I'm essential now.
Yeah, well, I wasn't at that point. Yeah. Now I am. And bikes were essential at that time too. And so we were allowed to sell, the bike shops were still allowed to conduct business after about a month. And, everybody just started ordering so many bikes. We ran out of bikes. All the shops ran out of bikes. And then they all just put in 1 million orders for new bikes. And then it just clogged up the system. Then they came back and, 2 years later, and then the faucet shut off. Everybody stopped buying bikes and everything. And then that kind of, it's still recovering, I think, to this day. So
was it a lot easier to smuggle bikes in your own personal inventory during that time than later because of all the mass buying going on?
They had a close inventory on those. I'm sure there were some bikes out there that went missing in the bike scandal of 2020, 2021.
The bike scandal.
Because shops were doing anything they could. Like, they were selling bikes they never even sold. There's so many different categories of bikes, and they would just get their hands on any sort of bike that they could get. And we only ride mountain bikes here, and let's get a cruiser bike that is electric, and we're going to sell all those now instead. So it was just a wild west of bikes at that time.
Why were they going so crazy?
You got to remember that. I was trying to find a boat in 2020, could not find one anywhere, and it was like any boat, like anything that hits. It was like a 2021 housing market. I mean, people just weren't selling anything.
Well, and all the gyms shut down.
Yeah.
And so one of the only things was to go outside by yourself, social distance in the forest, on the trails, out on the road. So everyone got all these bikes. They got, maybe nicer bikes or more bikes than they would have bought without COVID. And then the gyms opened back up a year or two later. Then they all started going to the gyms. And they're like, well, these things are just hanging in the garage now. So then they started selling them on the used market. So they got all these nice bikes on the used market, flooding it in. And then you got all these new inventory coming into shops finally because the supply chain was so backed up. So it was just like the perfect storm to end a good run. So
I remember camper business was going crazy. I bought my camper right in 2019. And I just remember that how crazy it went in 2020. And hindsight, I was like, oh, man. What I was thinking then is like, oh, man, this is great. I got mine before everybody else. I got a great deal. But really, I should have sold my camper during that time.
Sold right into the market.
Oh, my gosh. I would have walked away really nice. But we really loved it. We enjoyed it during that time.
So, okay, your first deal. What was it? Why did you start considering real estate? Tell us the story.
Yeah, I guess my first deal, I guess you could consider, was buying a condo the first 3 weeks of COVID. Nobody was buying houses, and I wasn't into real estate really at all. I might have been listening to some, Bigger Pockets or something at that time, and my wife was just like, hey, this condo, we already lived in this complex, and we really loved this complex, and it's Capitola. It's a small town of Santa Cruz. And she's like, hey, this one just came up. We're just kind of hanging out here. She was working in a hospital, so she was still going every day. But we had a little bit more free time, was at home, and we saw this one. We're like, yeah, let's pull the trigger on it. And, we did a walkthrough virtually on the seller's cell phone. We just did a FaceTime. He showed it to us, and we already knew what all the
you already lived there. Yep.
And, it was 1970s original everything. And so we did that, and, my boss was super cool at that time. We're like, hey, we just bought this house 3 weeks into COVID. We want to get it set up kind of nicer than what it was. We, redid a lot of stuff in the place the first 2 weeks. And so I just kind of took off for 2 weeks. Me and my wife, she was pregnant. I think she was probably 7 months.
Oh, she's full on nesting then.
Oh,
right?
Oh yeah.
You didn't have a choice. You were getting that
she
place
was
ready.
there just scraping stuff off the walls. She was painting with a painter's mask, and
I didn't know nesting was a thing until we had babies, and I'm like, this is.
I don't think any of us know that nesting is a thing.
No,
it's so primal.
Yes. Yeah, it is for sure a thing. Yeah. Okay.
But that was my first deal. Probably was we bought that house just thinking, hey, we're going to live in this for 20 years type of thing. My realtor actually told me, this is like a 5-year deal for you guys, and you'll probably need to upgrade, get something bigger. And this was like a $600,000 condo in Santa Cruz. And we were like, whoa, no, buddy. Like, I think we know this is going to be our last purchase ever. And sure enough, we made it less than 2 years, and we bought a bigger place.
And you bought that place for how much though?
The condo,
600, you said?
it's $569.
And you sold it for 2 years later?
Well, we did kind of like a long-term burr,
Yeah.
sort of, and we fixed it up completely. And then I refinanced it. I didn't take out cash, but then I did a HELOC on it, and I utilized that HELOC because we went up from like 569. I think it appraised at like 800 in a year. It was like in a year, and so that was amazing. And I used that part of that to buy like a duplex down the street, which was 1.2 million. And that was like a 1950s fixer upper. We lived in about 950 square feet for another 3 years in that place. And then our goal there was to house hack. At that point, I'd been listening to Bigger Pockets a lot more, learned about house hacking. I read Brandon Turner's, The Rental. It's like one of his main books, The Rental.
Something guide to rental properties. Or
Yeah, my wife had bought that book for some reason.
No money down.
Yeah.
Something like that.
My wife had bought that book for some reason, and then she read it, and then I read it, and I was like, oh, this actually makes sense. Like, this is how all these people, own these houses that are $1 to $2 million, and they're not like super poor at the same time. They have all these, different loan and finance products out there that you can utilize with your house. And so that's where it kind of opened my eyes. And then with COVID kind of, maybe scaring me a little bit with, job security and, different mandates that they're having for all the medical stuff and things. And just COVID, the scare that California had, it lasted 2 years. You couldn't go anywhere without a mask. We lived right by the beach, so we could walk to the beach. And the beach guys were like, you're not supposed to be walking to the beach, but like if you're on the beach, we don't care.
You can't walk to the beach.
Yeah. And
you couldn't walk on public streets?
You could by yourself. And then there was something about like you couldn't be hanging out on the beach. You could walk on the beach, but you couldn't stop. And the beach by my house was like huge. And not a lot of people would go there because you had to pay state park fees to park there, and we could walk to it. So all the rangers were super cool, and they're just like, hey, just kind of like keep like 6 feet from a different group, and you can sit here type of thing. So we actually loved it. We had a lot of good family time. I had a pretty young daughter at that point, and I got to spend a ton of time with them, and same with my wife too. So that was perfect. We had, we could walk to a couple parks and to the beach, so we were set.
That was the best part about COVID. It was the family time.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Yeah.
I've never swimmed with my kids so many times as I did during that year and a half time period. And I've never smoked so many cigars in my life as I did during that year and a half hard time.
Maybe it wasn't a great thing for you.
I literally, I would have Zoom meetings, and I'd sit by the pool, I'd have my cigar.
Yep.
Puffing away.
Like Boss Hog.
Yeah, and everybody would be like, why are you smoking? I'm like, is it bothering you?
Yeah, that's the point of Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird times, man. But I mean, to your guys' point, like that was a great family bonding event.
Yeah,
like that whole Black Swan thing that happened.
They had to make so many babies during that time frame.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, Zoom was going up, and so were the unplanned or planned pregnancies during that time.
We had one, I think.
There had been, there you go. See. There also had to been so many divorces of people that just couldn't stand their spouse.
It was probably an either or situation.
Yes. You refound each other or you didn't.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you're stuck together because you can't get another place.
The long list of annoying things that you do that your wife secretly keeps in her head really comes to light when she spends all day with you.
When I look back at that, there's two blessings: getting my camper right before COVID, and then buying my house with a pool right before COVID.
That was a good move. Yeah,
because you couldn't get those things thereafter.
Yeah, we did boat and jet ski. That was our move, and that was such a fun.
You still have the jet ski?
No, we sold it.
Okay, so I don't remember being invited to go jet skiing at any point ever.
Look, dude, I'm 50.
He doesn't even go jet skiing.
It's not even cool to ride a jet ski when you're fit. I've aged out. It's
My dad has 2 jet skis, and he jet skis all the time.
I'm just saying,
and he's in his 60s.
For me. But yeah, no, I'm not we bought it for the kids, something to do over the summer, and then they never wanted to go on it. But that thing would go, it would go almost 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're cool.
And it was an old Yamaha that my neighbor's kid rebuilt. Not a Yamaha. It was Tiger Shark. That's what it was.
I don't know what Tiger Shark is.
He bought it for like a couple $100 and then rebuilt it and then sold it to me for like $2,000. I could not find a jet ski anywhere.
Oh yeah,
Anywhere.
and then cars. I think cars were next. They went out.
It was just like all the Trek bicycles you were hoarding.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted them. So anyway, yeah, we got off topic there. We were talking about.
Yeah, I moved to my second house, which we house hacked.
Josh knows what we're talking about.
we house hacked, and we did an Airbnb on the top unit. So there was like a ADU / it wasn't a duplex, but it had 2 like legal living spaces, and so we Airbnb'd that top unit, and it was close to the beach, so it did pretty well for a few years, and paid for the mortgage and more, many months of that, and then that was kind of like our second deal, but you ran out of money very quickly. Those were more money
with those
than
price points for sure.
Yeah, with those price points, and I was just listening to bigger pockets, BRRRR strategy, like use your personal loan allotment and everything to get those investment properties, and then, leave the one behind, go on to the next one type of thing. But then I didn't have any more money. And so that's when I started getting into the SubTo stuff with Pace Morby.
Before you get that, and I know I really want to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, did you have to deal with any or were you concerned about any California eviction processes when you're starting to invest? Because I mean, looking at California and thinking about, especially in a city, thinking about having to go through an eviction process and all the horror stories you hear of and all the squatter stories you hear of. I mean, are those things that you were thinking about?
Oh yeah, the worst one I ever heard of personally was a person in San Francisco. We were trying to buy this property and the tenants were still in there. They paid $80,000 each for cash for keys to 2 different tenants. And it was $160 just to get them out. And they had been not paying for about 12 to 16 months. And so
That's
they've
a
already.
job.
Did they take it?
Oh yeah. At that point they did.
80,000.
And that wasn't that was the most ridiculous one I ever heard of. And at the closer you got to like San Francisco and Oakland, those numbers raised. Yeah, there was.
I'm speechless,
Well,
man. Like that.
So
that is,
I was very fearful of that, and for that purpose, we only did short-term rental, and then we also did mid-term rental. So my first condo, we furnished that immediately after moving.
You sound like me. That's why I got it. I was so scared about.
I was terrified, and I'm less risk averse now, but my wife is more risk averse. So I think we just wanted to go after the safest bet. Like we knew we could, make it okay. And
welcome back to Nebraska.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah, that's the nice part.
We interviewed a guy that was out of LA, and he had I don't remember, a 10 unit or something down there. And he talked about how he had people on Section 8 housing down there, and that the Section 8 housing numbers were never changing. And I don't come in.
They weren't increasing each year.
They were staying right where they're at.
Yeah.
And he's like, they were at the same price for 10 plus years, I believe is what he was talking about. And then in the end, there was no moving them out. They were guaranteed to not go up in price because the hold because of COVID. And
it's rent control basically, or voucher cap. Right.
And I don't remember the numbers, but it was like the difference of like a 4x plus difference on rent compared to that one specific unit that came with it when he bought it, and they were still there and he couldn't do anything about it.
Josh, based on what you know now, why would anyone buy real estate in California for an investment purpose?
The appreciation for sure.
Yeah. So
like we did really well on the second house that we bought, and I think we still did well on the condo that we bought. Like I'm glad I did both those deals. They set us up really nicely to, this is saying this in the nicest way, but like a downgrade to Nebraska from pricing standpoint, and going from a market we're numb to $1 million to $2 million price points, and just like I think the median price point in Santa Cruz was 1.3 when we left.
But we hear that all the time. I mean, we're Nikki Klug, and she's like, "Yeah, I sold my house and bought like a 20-unit apartment building here."
Yeah,
and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And she was in San Diego or La Jolla or something like that.
And that's what we sold ours. We bought ours for 1.2. We sold it for about like 1.67 in that range. And then
Sorry.
I think that one's passed.
I think it is passed. That's why. That's the only reason I do it.
And so that set us up really nicely to come buy like a $500,000 house here, which would be $2 to $3.5 million in Santa Cruz. The house that we bought here, like new construction, 3,000 square feet. Our garage has 4 car slots, and it's like 20-foot ceilings. Like that whole space right there was as big as our living space, if not bigger, in California.
How do you feel when you like moved into that house?
Oh, we ran
Gangster.
down. We had never even been to the house. We just showed up and we closed that day. We drove in on, the night before. We showed up to the title company, signed everything, went to the house, and my kids were like, this is amazing. And we never had carpet either, and the basement had all carpet ready to go. So we just went and wrestled in the carpet.
So you probably had tile, I assume, in a lot
we
of
just do
living
like
space.
laminate flooring, and especially we thought we were going to keep all of them for rentals, and we just wanted, it's not a huge space, so just do all like LVP or similar, so we don't have to change carpets and things like that. And that was pretty common. People would just put rugs down, not a lot of carpet, I feel like, was used.
Owen's sister did the same thing. You said, right?
Exactly. Yeah, my sister lived in Seattle, like a really good school district in Bellevue, Washington, and they had a decent house. It probably would have been $250 here. Sold it for $1 million. Came back, bought a lake house, like boat, like the whole shooting match. And that is a boss move. But like, you got to survive out there and not buy at the wrong time, right? Would you say?
Yeah. If we would have bought maybe half a year later, it wouldn't have been such a good deal.
Yeah.
So
that's the scary part out there. It's
yeah.
like, I would think you got to have some pretty deep pockets, or at least connections that do to kind of operate in that space where appreciation is really your only out.
Yeah. The appreciation, you'll get more in that than you'll ever get in cash flow on a deal here, like in the lifetime. And one cool story, when we sold our house there, our first buyer actually, he did cash non-contingent from the start, and he was going to close in about a month. And 2 weeks go by, and he calls me and he's like, hey, because he was working directly with me. I was the listing agent on it and everything. And he said, hey, like some things came up, family stuff. I'm really sorry to do this. I know you and your family, like he'd met my kids, he met my wife, and he felt terrible. And he's like, I got to cancel this deal. And I don't know that the excuse that he gave was like, he didn't really play the excuse or try to like make me feel guilty for him or anything, or feel sad for him. He was very awesome about it. And he said, I just have to cancel. And I was like, okay, do you know what that means then for your deposit? And do you know what deposits are in California?
No, I have no idea. What's normal?
Normal is 3%. So,
oh shit.
And when I came to Nebraska, we're talking about 1% deposits on properties.
Yes.
But you're talking about 1.67 million.
Yeah. So we made, I think it was 50 something. I think it was like 51 grand because he canceled his escrow and just gave it to us. And the title company's like, we've never had anyone just cancel and be okay and say they wanted to give you the money.
Wow.
So that was like a huge blessing to us in disguise. Like we were stressing then, and we actually sold it for less than what we would have gotten
because
from him.
The net.
Because then it's a pretty competitive market there. There's not a whole lot of inventory, and to put it back on market then, and we had to sell it really quickly to move because we were trying to close on our house here in Nebraska, and we were just trying to move. So it ended up working out great, but that was like, you wouldn't get a $50,000 cancellation fee here in Nebraska.
No.
So
that's a kick-ass flip here.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of work to get 50 grand. You don't get that in a contract.
I felt really good when somebody canceled on my 5-unit, and then they gave me a $5,000 earnest deposit back. They just said, nope, just keep it. We wasted your time because it was all cash deal, no inspections, closed in 2 weeks.
Yep. And I've heard of people giving, like I had a realtor that said, I just canceled a deal with an investor. The investor just gave the seller 80 grand. I'm like, they just gave him the 80 grand, didn't even like fight it or anything. And just gave it. So,
man, that's when you realize how many zeros there are out there that other people have in their net worth.
Oh, yeah. This guy was doing okay.
Yeah. It's a rounding error. Okay, that's fine. It'd be like $800.
And we still talk sometimes too. Like he's totally cool with me, I think, and I'm cool with him. And
Well, yeah, you've got $51,000 of his dollars.
Yeah. Do you want to buy any more properties from me?
Hey, feel free to cancel.
Can I teach you about the Morby method?
Yeah. Wow, that is crazy. 51,000. That has never happened to me. But that is definitely not a normal thing in the Midwest.
Yeah. No.
So 5's my biggest. What's your biggest?
Cancellation.
Yeah.
Or we kept a deposit, or I kept a deposit.
I never asked this question ever.
I think it was. I think I had one that was maybe 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on a
Multifamily
deal.
yeah.
Yeah. Bigger deal. But again, it was probably 1%.
Yeah.
So nothing like that. But I felt like a winner. At least because
Covers their holding costs.
Yeah,
Time.
and especially in commercial where there's so many outs. Like well, not every, depends on the market, but like right now, every contract you get or an offer you get from a buyer is typically going to have a 60-day DD period, and then there's pretty much for any reason they can walk. And that's the frustrating thing about commercial versus residential.
Well,
I know there's similarities, but
even I liked California for that. California actually had a really good process for holding buyers accountable, where I don't feel like Nebraska, as a realtor in the contracts that I've used, it's very easy to get out of a contract as a buyer, even in residential here. And I don't feel like it protects the seller super well. So I try to add in a lot of that stuff to protect them. And so I really appreciate the experience I had in California with their contracts, and then converting that to Nebraska, because you can pretty much get out.
What are you adding?
Typically just that, if we're removing an inspection period, that the earnest deposit goes hard immediately, especially if they're asking for any type of work to be done. And just nothing's coming to mind at the moment, but just like I know there's been other, in the other section, I think it's box 10, you're just putting in specific wording on timelines and specifically if this happens, then this happens type of thing. So it's clear. I still could get better at it. I think I'm going to keep adding more.
Maybe you need to do a Facebook or Instagram post on that, and then at the end of this, give everybody your handle so they can look up and see what it is.
Yeah.
That's important information.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's cool, man. So when you now you didn't live in Omaha, Kearney. For those of you not from the Midwest or the Nebraska area, Kearney's about 3 hours from Omaha proper. And you moved here, so you didn't know anybody here either, right?
I have a grandma. I have a couple of aunts, uncles, cousins, kind of.
Omaha's the California of Nebraska.
Yeah,
It is.
So you hit Omaha Beach about a year ago, and you said it's not the same as your beach, obviously. But when you came here, what was acclimating, getting to know people? You had some family, but you had no friends, no real estate connections, really, I would assume.
Yeah, one of my best friends, actually, we grew up playing soccer together, locker partners in second grade. He actually moved to Gretna, and when I lived here before, Gretna was like this little pass through on the interstate.
Oh, they have an outlet mall.
Yeah, they got an outlet mall, and you see it, water tower and everything. And he's like, "Hey, we're moving to Gretna from Lincoln." And I was like, "What? Like, you don't really seem like a Gretna person." And he's like, "Oh, it's actually like kind of bustling now, and there's a lot of cool houses and good schools. It's got its own public school system and everything." And so we're like, okay, that was a year before we moved, and then so when we moved here, we're like, well, we should probably just go, maybe 2 streets over from him. So we bought a house just in his neighborhood. He went and FaceTimed us through it, and we're like, yeah, that one looks great. We didn't really care because it was our bar was so low. For what a house was.
It's so funny to me because getting back to the similarities in your story with my sister moving here and her story. She was in Seattle, and I walked the house for her and did the whole FaceTime thing, and she's like, yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah, like we can live with that. And she's like, yeah, we'll just close and whatever. And I'm like, you're okay with that? And
as Owen's been looking for a house for the last
I know. I've been like, beating my head against the wall to find a house. I'm like, okay.
I never thought you'd be still living in this house this day.
I mean, I have bought investment properties that I haven't actually physically walked because I had somebody else, a partner or realtor that I trust or whatever. But I've never bought my own house, so that's I mean, it's ballsy. I like the move. But do you think that's more of a kind of a West Coast mentality where you're like, this is so little compared to what we're used to out there that what's the big deal?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And then also we were going from, most of the houses that you could afford were in the 1950s range.
Yeah.
And then everything came with a ton of termite damage. Everything came with mold because you got in Santa Cruz, there's the ocean, and then 2 miles away, basically, there's Redwood Forest and the Santa Cruz Mountains. So it's kind of landlocked.
Pinning in all the humidity.
So you get all the moisture and stuff from the forest and the trees and the ocean, and then mold is great in the trees. So especially if you live in the forest, then you definitely have mold. And so pretty much, you couldn't get a termite inspection without at least $5-10 grand worth of repairs.
Yeah.
And here it's like you come back, all clean, and
I never thought about that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Okay, so you moved back, and what was your thought? Like, you were like, I'm going to transfer my license or get my license moved over to Nebraska and get into the agent thing. You obviously have done some other things with that, specifically around investing. What was your move?
Yeah, so actually, I kind of thought that I might want to do something else for a second. I was like...
Not real estate.
Yeah, not real estate. And you start to get kind of that fear creep in, like, oh, I got to start somewhere new. I hadn't done any deals in Nebraska. And probably a little of that just, we're selling houses that are $1 to $2 million on average there. And then you start thinking about, I'm going to sell, a $200,000 house. And then you start doing the math on assignment fee or a commission. And you're like, I don't know. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I just go do a different job. And
because you'd have to sell 5 houses to make the same thing out there. But here's my question for you, though, and I'll ask both of you this since you're realtors. Do you is the commission structure percentage a lot less in California? Like, do they do 1% or 2% or anything like that? Or
I've heard of people I don't know how much we can talk about this, but I've heard of people doing.
You're here now.
Less percentages in Nebraska than was common. Not that commissions are common or normal in any way. That you can do whatever commission you want.
Nice. That was good.
But the average commission you saw.
But I would
That's
say
a
the
good
average
disclaimer.
that I saw with my eyes on a contract was higher maybe than sometimes here even. And so that was kind of in my mind as I was coming. I'm like, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze type of thing.
Yeah.
And then you just start getting the self-doubt kind of creeping in, self-employment, your own business, that sort of thing. It kind of comes in, and maybe I'm not cut out for that sort of thing, and I can just go do a W-2 job. I can go work it. I'm good at that. I've done that before. It's safe. And
I'm running out of Oakleys to sell in the black market.
I'm out of Oakleys. Yeah. So I think that was kind of going through my head, but
you also didn't have a house expense.
yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
I mean, because didn't you pay cash for your house off the profits from selling your properties in California?
Yeah. So
that's a boss move.
So that was kind of part of the move was babysitters we talked about, but also being closer to cousins and family and the kids, they loved coming to Nebraska.
Living mortgage free.
And that was definitely on the pros and cons list, clear at the top, because I'm more of a pros and cons list.
That had been such a big line item on your budget.
And we were getting kind of cramped. We have 2 kids, and we were in 950 square feet. My office was in the laundry room, which was a shared laundry room between the Airbnb. So I would go out of my house into this little foyer area.
How many times do you see naked people coming in and trying to do laundry?
Actually, they hardly ever did laundry. So
You're like, honey, I'm on a Zoom call. She's like, fine, whatever.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to after cigars, I'm stripping naked in the laundry room to get up, put it all on.
just blur the background. Blur the background.
It's like Borat. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So you're officing out of the laundry room. What next?
I think just the reset there was great. Reducing expenses was one of the goals. Getting closer to family, kind of different lifestyle, different mentality. There's definitely a different mentality from California to Nebraska, and not that one is amazingly better than the other. We just feel like we have a good fit here in Nebraska, and it felt like we were coming home. A lot of we both said that when we got here. We're like, oh yeah, it feels like we just left type of thing, Nebraska, and then we came back 10, 12 years later. So that was a cool feeling to get when we came back.
It's so common when it comes to kids. I don't know how many friends I've had that moved, period. And then kids come into play, and it's like,
Oh,
I want the Nebraska values.
Yeah.
Family ties. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, schools, family, the community mentality. Definitely, like, even being here a year, I felt like I had great friends there and everything, but I feel like the rate at which community has grown in Omaha has been exponentially, exaggerated.
The community here in real estate, though, is not like, I don't think it's like anywhere else.
No, it was not. This was not a thing in at least my pocket of California. I know there was more people active. I just didn't want to go drive to a lot of the communities. We tried to start a couple little communities in
Especially
Santa
at the
Cruz.
gas prices.
Yeah, especially at that. Yeah, I was back there a couple weeks ago, and it was like $6.50 for a gallon. I was like, I didn't fill up until the last day we left. I was there for a week, filled up the rental, last day. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. So yeah, I think the communities here is great, especially in the real estate community. It's a lot smaller than I expected too. Like, you run into the same people and pretty quickly, and so that's been cool. And then, like, your community and everything with the RIA, and like even that event last week that we were talking about, the realtor event, like, I felt it was just like a very genuine, authentic event. And
that wasn't a local. That was all Midwest.
Yeah, and that was just Midwest.
Yeah.
And I really felt like from
that wasn't
event,
my event. I was just speaking at it.
And I felt like, wow, this is like really special that these people can like share this type of thing and connect it to real estate at the same time. And he was talking a lot about just like being authentic and being like showing up for the other people in the transaction and just greater causes and everything. So that was super cool. And I'm sure that happens in California. I just didn't experience it as much as we have here so far. So,
well, the common thing you hear about other communities is like, oh, nobody will give their secrets, nobody will tell what they're doing because they're afraid everybody's going to steal their ideas.
Yeah, steal deals or whatever. Yeah,
that's my concept. Well, you'd also started a SubTo community here, and I do want to get into that. But before we dig into that, I'd really like to know what got you into the SubTo community. When did that whole thing start? And can you tell us your entry into it and where you're at now?
Let's start with what it is, first of all.
Yeah, SubTo is nationwide. I think it's even worldwide at this point. There's a lot of community members outside of the U.S., but it's either a community or an economy is kind of what Pace is trying to switch it to. So Pace Morby started this out of Arizona.
And for listeners, check out episode 100. We had Pace Morby on, and great interview that we did back then.
Yeah, and probably around that time when he was doing a lot of other podcasts, and especially he was on Bigger Pockets a few times. And as we were working on the second house, I was doing a lot of the work with my wife, getting it prepped and things like that. So I just listened to podcasts a lot, and he came up, and kind of what you were saying about like holding secrets, I felt like he was one of the ones that would just share like everything and was super generous with everything and didn't feel like he was holding back a whole lot.
Yeah.
And he would give away a lot of free resources and things like that. I was like, oh, this is kind of different than a lot of the people I've heard. And then I also just ran out of all my money. And he was talking about, kind of one of the hooks is you can buy a house with 0 down, 0% interest type of thing, which is kind of a unicorn deal. They do exist, and you shouldn't expect to just go buy that on your first one. You kind of have to be really good at negotiating that, and you probably have to be the one negotiating that because someone's not going to sell you that deal. You got to go out and find it and structure it.
It's good that you say that, though, because people go thinking that that's all they're going to get.
Yeah.
And that's probably a lot of people buying the memberships, too, but, that's real.
Yeah. So, but it's a community. There's a lot of resources within the community, different people in different niches of real estate, whether it's RV parks, mobile home parks, residential, long-term rentals, midterm rentals, kind of the full gamut now at this point. He started off just with creative finance and seller finance. Subject to specifically is kind of what he's known for. So that's why it's called SubTo. So it's just a great opportunity for like people to learn more. And like, I would consider it like better than a university, degree, especially in real estate. Like, you actually get to work and learn from people that are doing the business, not just like a teacher that's, maybe done it and now they're teaching from a book or something. Like, it's actually, there's different courses. They're trying to get it even to like structured degrees type of thing. When I started, it was just like, there's 10 different Zooms during the week. You can attend whichever ones you want to based off what you want to do, whether it's wholesaling or, buying properties, lending, anything like that. So,
well, Owen and I have met Pace, seen Pace speak multiple times over the years, different conferences, of course, the podcast. And I'd love to know what your thought is on this, but I really truly feel if I had to think of one thing that is his true superpower, it's his memory. The guy can recall
Crazy memory.
everything, every
Crazy.
name, every conversation.
Yeah.
If you guys never seen Pace Morby speak, you got to go see it in person. He's phenomenal. But he'll like, hey, I talked to these 25 people in the last 3 days while I've been at this conference. Oh, Linda, you told me that you had this property and you spent X amount of dollars and you did this, this, and this, and this, and this. And he recites every single detail, including the name, which I'm jealous. And I'm just like completely blown away. But
Yeah.
the way he's able to do that, on
It's
top,
great recall.
it makes such an impactful event to watch.
Yeah. Now, Josh, you put on an event. Let's see. It was during the winter time. I just can't remember what
Yeah, it was
month.
in November.
November. And you put everything together, and then one of my businesses that I'm affiliated with, we sponsored that, co-sponsored that event.
We talked about that in a previous podcast, too.
Yeah,
Great event.
and it was phenomenal. I mean, you had there was like 150,
Yeah, I think we
160
had
people there.
150.
Yeah,
Even on a Husker game night.
Husker game night. Which
There was people that left like midway through because the
Yeah.
game was starting, and when they told the game wasn't scheduled for that night, it was a Saturday night, and the time, I don't know how football works, but like the time was scheduled like a week or two before.
This was a night game. Yeah.
I was like, oh crap! Like we had maybe like 200 RSVPs, and we had about 150 people show up, I think it was, and I know a lot of those people went to the Husker game, which is fine, or they watched it, whatever. So that was fun.
It's like a religion here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Speaking of which, it was at a church, so that was
Yeah,
that's kind of fitting.
yeah.
But I will say personally, I was really impressed with you and how that whole thing was put together. We know how hard it is to get 150 people to commit to go to an event like that when it's it's a one night thing, like you said, during a Husker game here. And so that was kind of my first. I think that might have been the first time I met you in person.
yeah, I think it was.
And that was. I just want to point that out because that was really well attended and it was a lot of fun.
Well, and Pace was there, so
Yeah,
that was
and
kind
he
of
was-
like the big.
was
That
a
was
big
the
deal.
big, and that was the first time I think he'd ever been to Omaha. He's been like everywhere.
Yep.
Sore subject.
Just so you know, though, it was almost as bad, though, because I scheduled him, and it was his book release.
Oh, that's right.
And I paid the venue, I paid the staff, I got everything taken care of, and it was on Mother's Day that he canceled on me like a few days before because he found out he's having a baby and he wanted to go tell his mother-in-law that they're having a baby on Mother's Day. And
Which you can't fault him for that.
Yeah.
It just the timing kind of sucked.
but at that time though, I truly think he was at his absolute peak of popularity, and I mean,
At the book release.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, I mean, no shit. I think we had 350 plus RSVPs at that. And they still packed the restaurant even though we canceled it because so many people showed up.
Oh, crazy.
Which helped me out a little bit, just so you know, on
Yeah.
all the money I had to pay out on that one. But it was like, and then he's like, I promise I'll be back. I'm going to speak at your group in the next couple months. And it was crickets. We had a great relationship with Jamil. Jamil was literally flying in just because we had such a great podcast with him. And we were super excited about that event. But, oh, man, that was rough. Can you imagine telling my wife that I couldn't do Mother's Day with her? And then she makes all the plans with her family and everything. And then I have to come back and run, by the way.
I'm back in the picture.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was rough.
Well, and you told me that before, so I was like, okay, so I'm not paying any money for this. Who can we find? Let's find Owen and Chris to pay all the money for this up front, just in
Pretty
case if he
smart.
bails, I'm not on the hook.
So my mentality was, and we were in a different position, but I had the RIA group. And when we brought in David, and they told me I couldn't do any paid sponsorships and I couldn't do anything. But when we brought David Green in, I increased my membership. I don't even remember, but almost at that time, almost 50%.
Dang.
And we were small,
Yeah.
and that was like game changing. It was the injection that the RIA needed, and it was during COVID, it was 2020. But I was like, and my mentality was, by doing this thing with Pace Morby, it's going to make us look so big.
Yeah.
And so there was a marketing play for me to be able to sell some memberships.
Yeah. Okay, so after you put that whole thing together,
Phenomenal event.
Thank you.
what happened to your life? How did that change much of anything?
Because you already had the meetup group prior to that.
Yeah, I started the meetup in August, I think it was. And that was kind of just my first foray into, getting real estate going here in Nebraska. There was some SubTo members and everything, you said like Denlease and a couple other people that were in SubTo or in the Gator program. The Gator is like the lending, that's offshoot of SubTo. It's a little bit, less money to get into and everything, but it's all about lending. And so there's my brother-in-law was actually in the Gator program, and he was just saying like, nobody has a meetup going for SubTo and Gator specifically, but every other state, especially in California, there was like 10 meetups every month or even weekly within California. And so a lot of the community members would, meet in person. And so he didn't even know a lot of them.
There was one guy in town, Travis Banks, I believe we had him on the podcast back in the day too. He's been crickets. I haven't seen him for probably a year and a half.
Yeah, I think he got out of real estate for the most part. I haven't really talked to him.
But he was he was like the overviewer of it. Yeah. And he's actually the one that originally got us connected with Pace Morby.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and that kind of, I think, and that's very common. People will get into the group and go full blitz, and then maybe lifestyle or your W-2 job or something like that gets in the way. Or you get a couple of rentals or something, and then you're like, this isn't really for me, and I want to keep the rentals, but I'm going to go back to my, other job. And so I don't fault him for that or anything, but it left an opportunity for me to come in, just being active there in California. I wasn't even as active physically in person, but that was kind of my goal here, not knowing anyone. Kind of going back to what you were asking earlier, was my goal here has been, I don't want to sit in front of a computer all the time. I just want to do a lot of the things that I want to do, and I am a very social person. I want to go meet with people. I want to play sports with people. I want to go to church and do like small groups and things like that. Go to the gym, meet people there, work out with people. And that's kind of the things I've been doing. And so I was like, well, what if I could just do all that stuff and then still get leads, still do deals without sitting in front of a computer all the time? And I know you can do that with AI now and everything too, but that's not really my skill set at the moment, is bringing in all the AI stuff, and it's still kind of new. So that was just where I went with it. And SubTo was kind of one of the first things, like, hey, I could start a meetup here. Nobody's doing it. Started that. And then after a couple months of doing it, SubTo reached out to me. I was like, hey, we love what you're doing with the meetups here and everything. Would you want to be the, Nebraska, like Iowa, Midwest leader for SubTo, and just like make this an official event and everything, and be like the boots on the ground person for SubTo in that area? Just like, yeah, sure. And then that's when the meetup also came up. Pace is going to be in Omaha. We want you to host this event for him, that type of thing. And so that event definitely did help me, because I was, new to the area. Nobody really knew who I was. And so that definitely kind of put my name out there a little bit more, to be like the SubTo guy, creative finance, seller finance, subject to.
I think that's the exact thing I told you that night. I'm like,
you did. Yeah, you did.
On a map.
I did a few deals from that event. Like, people would reach out with, hey, I have this lead, sellers behind on their mortgage, 6 months, and they're underwater. We can't do a cash offer on it, that sort of thing. And so I've probably got like 2 or 3 maybe deals that a connection came from that originally. I also found like a buyer for 3 deals that I had at that event too. So it ended up being, well worth my time.
Pretty awesome.
For anything else, the connections that I made at it, and just goes to show the importance of attending the Omaha RIA or any of the other meetups in town, like the amount of connections and things you can do just by going and talking to someone in person.
So you had a great event, but Pace Morby didn't really seem like he loved Nebraska. He had some subjective posts that he put out there about Nebraska at the end. Like, he didn't like how we didn't interact, and he blamed a lot of it on the Husker game.
I mean, that's probably partial.
I think he was giving an out to everyone there, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times if you spend time with Pace on a Zoom, he'll take one person and make, like, he calls it like Pace Prison, and he'll take them up on the screen, and he'll make them like stay on the screen because they asked a question or something like that. And he'll just use them to talk with them and to educate everybody else basically on what he's seeing and, what he's maybe like advising type of thing. And he might be a little harsh to them, and he'll say like, this is not to you personally. Like, this is kind of show example. I'm not mad at you. I'm not angry, anything like that. So that's kind of what I read into it.
Has he done that to you?
No. Thankfully not. I don't really love the Zoom setting, so I kind of stay quiet in those, and usually
Camera
watch it.
Keep your head low.
Yeah, camera off, and then I watch it on replay at 2 times the speed type of thing. So I think that's a little bit of what it was. And then also, running a meetup myself and with people in Nebraska, and you probably experienced this at the re-event too, like it is kind of hard to get people to, especially if there's more than like 10 people, you just kind of like, you want to sit and not say anything. And it gets kind of hard to like pull anything out of somebody to like, hey, what are you doing? What deal do you have to sell? What deal do you want to buy? And I try to bring that at the end of my meetup. I try to get, group engagement and, have people say what they're doing and what services they need or what services they want to provide. And sometimes it's like crickets. And I got to like, okay, I'll say 3 things that I'm looking for or doing. And then people will start kind of opening up, or I'll have to like, hey, Dave, you got a lawn company. Like, tell us about your lawn service. Like, we got investors here. They have lawns they're taking care of.
I've debated going to each table and like making it mandatory, but fine, I'll stand here as long as I have to until somebody says something.
Yeah. So I get what he's saying there. I know people didn't love his posts after it and everything, but I still get where he's coming from, I think, a little bit. So
yeah, I think it's more of like expectation setting too, because like I don't know, and maybe it's a city by city thing, but like most people are not comfortable all of a sudden getting drug into a public speaking engagement that they had no plans for, because it's the number one fear, even ahead of death for a lot of people. So that maybe had something to do with it. But yeah, he's very hands on. So it's like, okay, right now you're going to call somebody that has XYZ for sale and talk to them.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? I thought I was just going to come here to learn. I'm half drunk. I was at the Husker game. What's going on?
I had to give so many wholesaler contacts out of my phone. Yeah. Do you know some wholesalers in the group? I do, but I'm not legally responsible for anybody you call.
Yeah. Ted is immediately his butt clenched together on that. He was a little nervous, but no, that's great. So if you had to give advice to anybody catching this episode, if they went to a new city, or maybe they even live in one, and they don't feel like they have a fit for community, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to start their own?
Start their own community?
Yes. Like your Subject to meetup.
Yeah.
How many people attended your first one?
I think it was 15.
15? Okay.
Yeah. And
then
I had a couple people from Lincoln, a couple people from Omaha. I just reached out to the different SubTo members, and that was kind of the goal, was to get the SubTo members together and the Gator members. And then we started posting a little bit, and then people saw like SubTo, and they're like, oh, like let's go check that out. And so some cool people came to that first one, and then it's kind of grown each month since then. More people come each time. But I'd say, I was kind of scared to do it. And typically, any type of speaking thing, I'm typically excited or, a little bit sweaty going into it. But then once you get rolling, you're like, okay, like I know how to talk a little bit. Like I'm not, a Pace Morby, but I can make my way around, and I can engage with people, and I can ask them questions and try to engage with them. And so
it's easier to be an MC versus a presenter.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to picture what that would be like for you as somebody that, yes, you're from Nebraska, but not Omaha. You move here, halfway across the country, and you're starting a meetup, and you don't really know what the experience level of the room is and what people know. And so I would guess imposter syndrome kind of crept in a little bit.
Oh yeah. And I didn't know a whole lot about there's a lot of unique market differences in Omaha versus California, and where you can actually do different strategies that do work still, or you can't do some here that you could do there. And so I also wanted to use it for a way to, get more knowledge of what actual people are doing in the area. And so that's been very helpful. But for somebody that's just going to come start a new one, like it just needs to be like 3 or 4 people, and people like that, intimacy too, especially if you have someone that's done like 1 or 2 deals. And I try to get people to, just present on, a deal or 2 that they've done, and give them a little bit of a pedestal to practice one speaking, and then practice talking about specific real estate details, and like, showing that they do know what they're talking about. So that's been really cool. But for someone like that, just get a couple people together and, just start talking about something you're doing or something you want to do. Like one guy, he spoke, and he'd only done, he'd just started doing co-living with a JV partner in SubTo. And so he just went through like kind of their journey on starting co-living properties, and it was like super helpful. So
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had over the years. And it's like, hey, whatever your industry you're in, whatever thing you want to do, whatever you're passionate about, just start a group.
Yeah.
And by doing so, if you're even semi-successful with it, you're the guy then. You're the person people look up to. You create a name for yourself. And heck, you came here knowing pretty much nobody.
Yeah.
Able to create that and do an event because of that is the best example I could say of what I've been preaching for so long.
What do you guys say? So you the three of us collectively, we have all started a meetup in some way, shape, or form, right? So what you two have done is quite a bit bigger than what I've done with personally.
Even though we have about 30 people there, and he also done it every single week.
But
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, every week is a lot.
And you're
I'm
the
once a month.
and you're the presenter.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
That's
I will say that.
a whole different game.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to do what you do.
Yeah.
But that aside, what do you guys say to people? And there's going to be people that are like, how can we skip over this part because like that's not me. I'm never going to do that. Do you think that anybody that they don't have their itch scratched by the community that they're currently in, so they're like something's missing. I feel like I want to start my own thing, or I want to get involved in some other way. Is there a way you can start a group and not have to be the face of it or necessarily the main person if that's not really what you want? Because not everybody wants that.
If you're really well connected, I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta be well enough connected and know your city or your topic so good that you can recruit somebody to go speak on your behalf and never be upfront. It's doable.
Yeah.
But I mean, you really need to know your topic so good that you're finding those people.
Now, I think I know this answer already, but for you two guys who run, you run meetups that are monthly, and they're at what time do they start?
Mine's at 7:30
7:30.
p.m.
Yours is at 6:37, whatever.
Well, doors open at 6. It's networking, and the event's at 7.
And I guess if you're thinking about that, it takes. Obviously, you have to have logistics. You've got effort. You've got outreach. All of those things are important. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how this would work for somebody that maybe doesn't want to be in the front seat, but they feel like they're missing something. Is that something to where you might be able to reach out to somebody that's more well connected and be like, hey, I will help you out. I want to be the number 2 person, but
Yeah.
I'll do all this stuff behind the scenes, and then you kind of like lead it.
Well, I feel like both Ted and I kind of do that because I've spoke a couple times at ours, but I also don't want to prepare something every single time, and like you do. So
It spends hours.
yeah, and when I speak, I spend a lot of time on it, and I think there's a lot of people to learn from. So that's why I've just tried to, hey, who wants to speak next time? Nobody raises their hand.
No.
But I'll be like, oh, this guy just talked about, this topic when he first came. And I was like, I would love to know more about that. So then I asked them, would you want to speak, 30 minutes? Just, it doesn't have to be amazing. You don't have to be an expert or a pro.
It can just be Q&A.
Yeah, it can be just Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you just, ask somebody,
Easiest way to get people to speak is do a panel.
Yes.
that's what we did the other.
My first pretty much year and a half of doing RIAs, I was 2/3 panels.
Oh.
And I would just MC the panel, and that's all I did.
I love panels. They're my favorite probably
Yeah.
type of event to attend, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you get 4 or 5 different perspectives on things on the same topic.
As a person that runs a group, it's so nice to have an individual speaker.
Yes.
Because you can just have somebody speak and you go. And I lean towards those the last couple of years.
Yeah, they're less effort to get people logistically lined up to commit because
Yeah.
it's hard to getting 5 people to show up to
Yeah.
do a speaking
But
gig.
to get the people that you want specifically on a topic, then the people that would never say yes will say yes to a panel.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes I feel like mine have kind of turned into panels a little bit because there'll be a couple other like high level people or high level investors in the group that, the speaker might say, hey, I don't know the answer to that question that somebody just asked. Like, let's, ask this person that's sitting here in the audience that I know has a better experience in that. So that's been kind of fun. And because I haven't wanted to be just someone speaking, you get entertained. I want to transition some of them to where we're doing more like actual activities of what it takes to be, whether a wholesaler or an investor, you're looking for leads, those types of things. I'd like to get more into that. I haven't had a whole lot of buy-in from people when I've talked about it because I think it is hard. You just want to show up. You want to listen to something, maybe be entertained, and then get a couple nuggets and then go.
My favorite events to do were the ones where we met at a property. We had a rookie RIA for years, and those events were always held at properties. So every month at a property. So either it could be a complete
Bus tour? You did the bus tour?
We did bus tours too. But then you got to meet at a property, and we just literally, a sponsor brought pizza, another one brought beer. And then the vendors that were working on the property or did work on the property had a little booth set up in there, and it was just Q&A with everybody. So the investor would get there. Hey, this is what we're doing. Here's the vision. Oh, and this is my contractor I use. Contractor comes up. This is my window guys I use. Here's the guy that did landscaping. Here's my property manager. And then everybody got to ask those questions from all those trades, and then also those trades went in your pocket, and that really kind of like opened up like a lot of things. There was no stupid questions, and it also brought a lot of rookies out.
Yeah.
Because it was an education part of that. I really need to do more of those. But
those are cool.
But when you have a paid group, it's just very little way to monetize those events. And if you're putting your time in and it costs you money to do it and not get paid for it, it's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So what does life look like now? You landed here in Omaha. You've gotten your feet under. You started a SubTo community that you've got the chapter in Omaha here. You've got your shingle hung with Realty One Sterling as an agent. What are you spending time on right now?
A year ago was kind of reset time for us. Family life. We're moving to Nebraska. My wife started a new job here in Nebraska, W-2 and everything, and then has worked that for a year, and now she's just transitioning out of that job. And I was, moving here, I was the stay-at-home dad. We told one of our neighbors that one time, and, we're in Nebraska. It's a little bit more conservative on that front, and she just like out loud laughed at me when I said, "Oh, I'm a stay-at-home dad," and because for the summer I was, my goal was not to do anything real estate, just hang out with the kids, take them to the pool, the zoo, all the fun stuff here in Omaha, get them like integrated and feel like they like this place. And she just like laughed out loud, and my wife thought it was hilarious. I thought it was pretty funny too, but yeah, so that was kind of where we started. And then when I talked to Ted in August,
that would happen in California, right?
Probably not. No, a lot of the dads were like picking up from school, or they had like cush, tech jobs where they worked from their house and they could kind of do whatever they wanted during the day.
I'm the only dad that I have seen that volunteers at my kids' classrooms for all the events.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very common.
Period.
We actually really liked our public school there because you would roll up through the lineup thing, and then your kids had dots you had to stand on, and you had to wait like 10 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes for the teacher to come outside of the school, because it's all like outdoor schools, you individual buildings, and you walk to different classes, and so they would come pick you up there. So you'd sit there and wait and talk to the other parents in that time. So you met a lot of the other families, which was really cool. But half of them were dads. And I think now that you say it, when I go pick up my daughter, I'm probably one of the only dads. Maybe there's 2 or 3 other ones, but yeah, very different in that regard. So, but that's where I started off. Talked to you in August about, different brokerages and stuff. And Realty One was a great fit based off what you said, and it has been. And
I also told you to go interview multiple brokerages
I did.
before you make the choice.
And I did. And
because there's nothing more costly than picking a brokerage and then deciding it's not the right fit.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So every time I get these phone calls and I give them a lot, I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. But also check out these 2 other brokerages or 2 of your choice and go to their team meetings.
Yep.
Get a feel for
Did
it.
that.
See if it feels like it's home to you, because you'll go one of those places you'll feel like, this feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, both of you, this. So there was a thread a while ago. This was several months back, but I think it might have been in the Facebook group on the RIA, the Omaha RIA, and someone brought up, do you think it matters what brokerage a person aligns with? So not an agent, but a person themselves. Do you guys think it matters? Or if you work for, a national brokerage, EXP, Berkshire, like any of the local ones here, does that matter in terms of how it affects your business and customers perceive you?
Yeah, I think it does. Specifically in my scenario, when I was looking at brokerages, I wanted brokerages that could allow me to do the investor things that I needed to do or wanted to do that are kind of unique for me as a realtor, and that, is creative finance, seller finance, subject to deals. And then also on top of that, that's like kind of one thing in itself that a lot of brokerages wouldn't be interested in, like going down the rabbit hole on, is this going to get me in trouble?
Yeah.
And things like that.
I don't understand it. Therefore, it's risky. Therefore, I'm
Yeah,
out.
and they just want to do retail. Here's a nice house. We get it prepped up. We sell it for top dollar on market, and then, we're done. So that's a great model, and you can make a lot of money as a brokerage that way. But there's also a lot of other opportunities, and there's a lot of other people out there that you can help that are not in those scenarios. It's not just cut and dry. Prep it. Spend some money, get the house ready, sell it top dollar. There's a lot of other scenarios out there that we can help with these other models. And so I wanted to make sure that I could do subject to, I could do creative finance, I could do wholesaling as well, which is kind of a touchy subject in Nebraska specifically if you don't do it correctly and you don't have the proper licensing and everything.
It's going to get more touchy here soon.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but so I think it does matter a lot specifically for that. If you just want to do retail, there's a lot of people that want to just do retail transactions and have those clients. And there's probably more options for you out there. But there's one of the things that I want to look at is how can I do a decent amount, but keep more of it? And that's kind of come from like a tax background. I think there's that book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bible.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow
that.
Quadrant.
Is it purple?
And then
Is that
Dolph,
another name?
Purple
Oh,
Bible.
okay. The Purple Bible.
Dolph
All right.
DeRoos was his
So-
accountant. He wrote a
One-
couple
one
of
of
books
the
about that.
one of them has this tax book, and it just stuck with me. Like, it's not about how much you make; it's about how much you keep. And so that's kind of stuck with me. And finding a brokerage also that didn't take 50% of your
Yeah.
earnings, which is, I've heard that's a thing here locally. Typically,
Especially if you're new.
yeah, typically it's like 20 to 30%, but there's some that do 50% even on your own leads that you bring. So I think that comes into it too.
Riches are in the niches when it comes to real estate.
Yeah.
You got to find your niche and then keep with it. Make sure you match with the perfect brokerage that goes with the niche that you want to get into.
Yep.
I'm predominantly an investment agent, so this particular brokerage worked well for me for that because I think that there's nobody else doing what they're doing. But, in Omaha, where we're recording right now, Berkshire Hathaway is based here, and not talking about home services, the real estate brokerage, but the actual company, because Warren Buffett lives here. And because of that one specific reason, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, the real estate company, does extremely well here and they probably get a majority. I know they get a majority of the real estate just because of the name.
Yep.
And so if I'm just wanting to get as many transactions as I can possibly get, that might make the most sense for me.
Yeah.
But you're also, there's I don't know the number anymore, but 3,500 agents probably in Nebraska, I think, and they got like 11 or 1,200 there.
Mm-hmm.
So they own that realm. I mean, we only have 120 agents here, and we're like the fifth biggest brokerage in the state.
Yep.
Give you that perspective.
Yeah. Well, no, that's really interesting, though. And I have been curious about that because I'm the only one in the room here that doesn't have an agent's license, excluding Aiden.
Yeah.
Aiden is agent provocateur. But if we were going to look at the next, so you've got your feet under you, you've got a community that you've started to build, have gotten great traction. When you're looking at the near future, what's next for you?
Yeah, I've been
What are you
working
excited about?
Working with kind of those people that are in distressed situations with distressed properties, or even not distressed properties, but they are distressed financially, socially, with divorce or anything like that, where they financially underwater, those types of things. I feel like I get the most goodwill benefit from doing those, and like the most purpose aspect, where there's a bunch of people that can do retail, and that's not just, but they can do retail. They can sell the nice, beautiful houses, the luxury, all those things. And there's not as many, of those 3,000 agents, there's probably 1% that have maybe even touched like a creative finance type of structure on a deal.
1%? That might be,
Maybe that's generous.
that may be 30.
Yeah. 30%.
That'd be
30 people.
That'd be 30 people.
Oh, okay.
It might be a little bit higher than that, but
Yeah.
but it's low, yeah.
And it's just like there's people that need help in that. And like I just had an auction sale last week that I got to them a little bit too late. It was like 7 days before the auction. And like they were totally willing to have help. They just need somebody to pull them along with it. And they'd been, out of the house for a year. And we didn't actually close the deal. I listed on Thursday. We had a couple offers over the weekend. They owed about $298, and then we got an offer for $260. They ended up auctioning it off for $248 the next day. We gave them the offer and everything at the bank, and they just said no. It was like too late, and it was not enough money for them, type of thing. They sold it for less, the next day. But like I could have helped that person, 2 weeks before maybe, and actually saved them. They wanted to buy another house in the future. I think it's probably 7 years now that they're going to be out, rather than if they just had a short sale on their record, it'd be 2 years. So there's a lot of people sitting like that just don't get helped. And so that's kind of what I want to look at more doing. I haven't done a whole lot of lead generation in the last 9 months I've been doing real estate here. The lead gen has been from community outreach and doing events, doing just my daily life stuff, going to the gym and going to soccer, and then building relationships with different investors and people in the area. So I'd like to spend more time on that. I also enjoy helping people buy their first home. That's very meaningful to me, and it's kind of a tough, scary thing, and you get to really know the person and you become friends pretty quickly with them. They open up a lot and things like that. So that's kind of what, I like to do both. I just like to have a toolbox that I can fix a lot of different real estate problems, no matter who gets thrown my way, mainly in the residential realm.
Maybe there's a way you got to figure that out. Because I remember when Jerry Schlickburn was the number one short sale person in the state, she literally created a company that did nothing but short sales, but she did them on behalf of the real estate agents that gave her the leads.
Oh.
And then she would do the transaction, but the transaction would close under the real estate agent, but she would get 80% of the commission, or the commission that came out of it. I don't know if there's something creative you can figure out there, but
well, and I don't want to do short sales necessarily. I want to save them before the short sale because it's better for them to sell their.
I was just giving that short sale example.
Yeah, but there's kind of a tier of options, and it starts at top dollar on market sale, and then it kind of goes down. We can't do that. You don't have money to fix up your house. So, here's maybe this wholesale cash option. Oh, you owe too much on your property. Okay, let's go to the next step down. Can we do a creative finance offer? Can we take over your loan? Can we seller finance a portion of it? Can we do a hybrid of both of those? And then if that's option, great, let's do that. If we can't do that, now we got short sale. Let's go down to that option. And then it just keeps going down.
I love this. You're giving them a menu of choices based on their circumstance, and that's not something that retail agents are going to do.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you don't have any equity, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to get paid. You're going to have to bring money to the table that you don't have. There's no choice for me to do this or not do this.
Yep.
I'm out.
Yeah. Short sale is kind of the last option.
I love that.
And then, auction is kind of, I don't want them to go to auction. It doesn't benefit them any, and doesn't really even benefit the bank. Like, just in that scenario, they would have got more from our offer than the other option.
So dumb.
So
sometimes some of the stuff,
well, and it took them a day to respond. We had it a day before the auction, and they just didn't even really have the time to process and respond, even though they said they would.
Man, I love the Swiss Army knife approach here, though, with solutions. Like, you come to people and you're like, you either take this, yes or no, but you're like, hey, this might work, this might work, this might work. The further down we go the list, your options get less and less, but there's still options.
And that's what I loved about Trek. I did a lot of guide sales training, we called it, and it was kind of like, ask all these open-ended questions, who, what, when, where, why, and kind of go through the person and then figure out, based off what they're telling you, here's kind of maybe one or two of the options I'm thinking. And because you've told me this, I now see that, really only one of these is an option. I'm going to give you both, but then I'm going to probably let you know that, okay, you say you want to do that option, but you don't have any money to fix up your property. So here's actually the best fit for you that I think, or maybe I give them two and then say, which one do you think is the best fit for you? And a lot of times they might not actually do what you think they will do.
Yep.
Like most real estate agents, they think, oh, top dollar on market. Why would anyone want to give up equity in their home when you could just go sell it on the market? There's a lot of different reasons. So
yeah, some people want certainty.
They
want a problem
certainty,
solved.
Speed, convenience.
Yeah,
those are the cash offer things. So yeah.
Man, if you're not taking nuggets out of this or taking notes, I think you guys are screwing yourself right now if you're listening to this. Josh, I knew that you
very eloquently put.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I'm not going to go down that road. Josh, thanks for coming in on this and talking about this topic. But we do have a couple segments that we always like to cover. And the first one we call Failing Forward. And what we mean by that is a learning lesson that you had in life or business where it had a lesson in it that you probably would never take back because you learned something out of it. Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, we've kind of glossed over it a little bit, but we didn't move here to Nebraska because, there was marriage tension and family tension, but real estate and my lack of ability to maybe communicate or to work through maybe signals and signs that my wife was giving me.
AKA he didn't want to move.
Well, the real estate kind of brought in a new, obsession to me. I didn't have any, I was obsessed with bikes, soccer, sports, doing things like that. I never wanted to like work on properties or, I wasn't interested in real estate before we got into it. And so it kind of, I'm usually a all in or all out type of person. And then I kind of got all in on it and just making sure that the failure point was going without maybe my wife being fully on board with, some of the things that I'm doing and wanted to do. And she was very gracious in like doing a lot of the things and, appeasing me in that. But my failure there, I think, is just making sure that as a spouse, like they're your partner and you're on the same page. Like risk tolerances were different. And I started going in one direction. Like, we both grew up in Nebraska. We both came from like a Dave Ramsey mentality. And so just being intentional about, communicating that with the spouse and making sure that they're on board with you when you're doing your real estate stuff, I think was how I would have done it differently. And we're pretty risk averse when we do deals. So I don't have like a specific story of like, oh, we did this wrong, because we try to do everything right.
So you've profited on every deal you touch.
Yeah. I've never lost money on anything. And
Better knock some wood, dude.
That's a mic drop.
there we go.
Please don't drop our mic.
But
They're
I
expensive.
probably could have made a lot more money on deals, and I could have lost some. But I'm just kind of conservative with what I actually, take to the closing table myself. A lot of times I'll structure deals and then sell it to somebody else, just from my experience and everything. And there's less risk to me in that scenario. So
Yeah,
I never lost money in deals until last year.
yeah. Oh man, I don't have that to brag about. I've lost deals in every year, pretty much.
What's the biggest loss you ever had? Like, not what is, but dollar amount.
Well, I mean, it's tough to quantify because, like, is that just in a flip? Is that like 40,000?
Okay.
Yeah. That's been two or three times. That's happened. So
My biggest one property failure was 70,000.
oof.
yeah.
Yeah, that would not sit well in our house. So that's kind of why I've done everything I can to avoid that.
I did everything
And
right.
I don't flip.
It was out of my hands.
Yeah.
It was out of my hands,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Well, oh man, this is awesome. So the last section that Ted and I like to cover here, we call the OT with Owen and Ted. A little preliminary O there.
That's pretty amazing.
OT. I
little premature
I was sipping my old fashioned, and I was like, I had to jump on it.
That's hilarious. So we've got some questions that we ask every guest, and the first one for you is.
Can I ask this one? I feel like this is
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, back to you, Ted.
Okay, so this is a question I find really interesting, and I'm not going to explain it over and over again, but what is your superpower? What's the one thing that you feel like you're the best at that separates you from everybody else in that one category?
Oof. I think from a real estate standpoint, I think it's, just taking the next step forward and jumping in. Like we didn't talk about my first wholesale deal, but my first wholesale deal, it like scared me so much to do it. And I felt like I had no idea what I was doing and that it wouldn't work. And if I look back at it, I wouldn't do the deal today.
So your superpower is being lucky?
Yeah, I think, taking a step forward and like just,
Ignorance is bliss.
yeah, there was a lot of ignorance in there, and I would have structured it differently now, but it was still one of the most profitable deals I ever did, and it was my first deal. And so just the power to take the next step, I think, is one of them. And then just we haven't talked much about like a spiritual component of this, but I think the Spirit of God kind of lives within me, and not that that's unique to me or anything, and a lot of people can access that and everything, but I think it just gives you a ability to work through scenarios that maybe would turn out badly, and I would have lost money on a scenario if I let some other spirit be controlling my life and everything. So I'd say that's probably one of the super not saying anyone that has a spirit or is into that can't lose money.
Or you can look at a spirit as like a bad business partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you looking at him specifically, or he looked at you?
I thought we were cool, man.
Oh,
No,
we're more than cool.
Okay. No, that's good. Yeah, everybody has a superpower, and we get weird looks sometimes when we ask that, but it's true when you think about it. Like, there's something that people know you are really good at, or you know yourself.
I'm sure there is
way
something.
better.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
What's your superpower? I don't think I ever asked you that.
I am really good at catching things that fall out of cabinets unexpectedly.
That-
Like if you open a cabinet and all of a sudden there's like a bunch of cups
your
that fall
reaction
down.
time?
Like I'm really good at it. Like almost cat-like.
Your kids fall out of the cabinet and
yeah.
you got a dad grab. That's,
And then-
dad grabs.
Exactly. The
Yep.
dad grab. I'm elite. Like I'm definitely the top 1%.
I was going to
there.
give you the gift of gab.
Well, maybe, but the other thing that I would say is I'm really good at recognizing voices when you hear them and you don't see them, like the person talking. Huh. So if they're reasonably famous.
Yeah.
So I can pick a really obscure one. So if I hear somebody talking, it could be for just like a couple seconds. I'll be like, that's so and so, or what, you know what I mean? Like I'm
very practical, very useful.
Yeah, it helps.
Both of them are very useful.
Than I can say.
When I talk about Owen, specifically, usually on a podcast, and I always say that his superpowers is his ability to be actively thinking at all times, because active listening, I should say.
Yeah.
Because you'll be talking, and then he's already got the next question in his head, ready to spurt out, and he's so good at like just dropping it. Where if I was just running the podcast 24/7, then there would be all these radio edit breaks that you have to fill in, because I would need a second to like process it and then put it out.
Yeah.
And he could just keep on going and keep on going.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say that in particular, I probably am above average on, but that's born from being in recruiting for 20 years and having to think ahead and plan ahead. So it's a natural fit for podcasts. So I'm kind of if I have that skill,
The old-fashioned slow that down a little bit.
That is very true. This is like when you're playing a video game and then your character gets poisoned, and then they're functioning at maybe 60% of the level of their capacity. That's where we're at.
I was thinking you say about play video games. I'm thinking of all the stoner kids that are sitting on the couch and they're taking their bong rips, and then their reaction times are getting slower and slower as they're playing.
Oh, well, we hang out with
that too.
hang out with different crowds, Ted.
We don't. But I thought,
All right, next question. All right, so we have a book question for you, and here it is. If you were going to write a book based on what you believe right now or your past experiences or whatever, and you had to title it or give us a topic, what would that be?
I think it would be, somebody asked me this about a podcast, and if I was to start a podcast that wasn't real estate related, it'd be about philosophy, specifically philosophy or philosophy of religion. And I think they're super intriguing and very important to think about. And so specifically, I've just got a couple kids' books for my kids to learn about different, fallacies and thinking and arguments and things. And there's not a whole lot of kids' books out there for kids to think. And I think, especially with AI coming out and you're like doing a lot less thinking, and it's like, I don't know if this is a fact, but there's like facts out there. We're getting dumber and our processing is getting less. And so, just a tool for kids to, learn how to think and think about, small topics, big topics, religious topics, all that kind of thing. So I don't know what I would title it, but philosophy for kids, I don't know.
No, I love that. I actually, and I think you and I talked about this, Ted, but I was a big reader when I was a kid, and I grew up in a small town, so they had a very small library. So I burned through every book they had, and they're always getting new. So that was a regular thing for me. But we had a book that was called Aesop's Fables. Thanks, old fashions. And I loved that book because there were life lessons in there that were covered in a fun storyline that involved, just animals and stories from the past and things like that. Not like I didn't learn about philosophy until I was in college, and I specifically took a elective philosophy class. Yeah,
and that would be like a basic, I would say at least high school, logic or intro to philosophy. I feel like would serve everybody a ton for the rest of their life if they just had those topics instead of maybe like a cooking class or something like that. Like cooking's great, but you can just order it. So
yeah, we're slowly devolving into idiocracy. It's art imitating life, imitating art, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah, that movie's scary out.
That is scary. Yeah, and and I need this book just as much as my kids. So that's kind of why it's on my mind. Is I need to get back to the foundations of philosophy and logic and things, because it falls out the door all the time for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Hypothetical situation. They make wholesaling and SubTo illegal. How do you pivot? What are you going to do?
Well, there's always kind of ways to do things legally and get around it. So I would start probably by looking and reading the fine print and see how can we do things above board if it's possible. If it's not possible
Not
at
possible.
all,
You gotta pick a different career path.
I think I'm still going on the real estate route, and I still think there's tools that I can utilize.
Like Oakley's.
Like Oakley's that, hey, everybody that puts an offer on this house gets a free pair of Oakley's. So I think I'd still stay in the lane. And I'm also trying to build my investment portfolio at the same time. So, if
this real estate thing doesn't work, you're going to go down just being a landlord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, well, he pigeonholed.
Well, I don't know if I
That's all
don't
you
have
can
to be
do.
a landlord. I can just own the properties. And
So if you can't do real estate, what are you? I guess that's where I was trying to get to. I should have been more specific on that.
I don't know. Yeah. Once I got into
It's
real
hard
estate,
it's
I
hard
was
once
like,
you're in it for a while.
why would I want to do something else?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the goals of real estate is to, offset your taxes and to keep a lot of the money that you're making.
But there's so many real estate investors that have other companies.
Yeah.
There are. There's a big difference between operator real estate investors and people that invest in real estate because they have money that they don't know what to do with, or they feel they're interested in real estate. So it's having your toe in the water versus jumping in. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
I'm sure I have a couple ideas, written
Yeah.
down. I always have a list of things, but they haven't really been on the top of my mind. So
Yesterday, we were at a coffee meetup, and like Ted said, there were probably 30 or so people there, and we were talking to a couple of them. I was in the back of the room talking to an investor locally that comes a lot. And we were talking about college degrees or what did you study in college? And, you mentioned you had Spanish and business, I think. And then I was
mainly Spanish.
mainly Spanish. And I was like sports administration, psychology, and then business administration. That's where I landed. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be a physical trainer.
Yeah.
That's all I can do with this sports admin degree. Or maybe I could go to work for the Royals or something, or the Red Sox. And then it was like, I just went around the room and asked a few people, and then they were like the most random degrees ever. And I go, hey, congratulations, everybody. We're all failed college students because
Yeah.
nobody's degree matched up with what they were actually doing, which we're all in real estate now.
Yep.
It's funny. We're the island of misfit toys or something. There we go, Ted.
There we go.
I'd probably go back to selling cars.
Would you?
I could jump in that right away. And I jumped into it for like a year, and I was like top salesperson for 6 months out of 12 months. So I think I could jump in that really quick and make money.
If I could de-age myself,
Until I figured out what I'm going to do.
if I could de-age myself like 30 or maybe 25 years, I would probably bartend for a while just to have fun again.
Yeah.
That was a good time. It's like going out,
Yeah.
but you're not paying to go out. You're still out, but
I mean, maybe go work at Trader Joe's. They're so friendly there, and they talk to you all the time at the
retail,
checkout.
I'm out.
Well, it's
For those reasons, I'm out. No.
Yeah, I couldn't work there.
All right, Josh,
It's too busy.
we've talked a lot about what you've done. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the end of the line for you. You were looking back on your life. For you to be proud about what you've done on this earth, you seem like a deep thinker with your philosophy. Not degree, but
it's not.
What do you think? What's your legacy going to look like when somebody's walking up to the podium and talking about what a good dude you are?
Yeah, it's a great question just to work backward. And I think a lot of times in real estate, we work backward from what the deal has to look like and what it has to pencil out on
The
on
ARV.
the exit.
The ARV of your life.
Yeah, what's the ARV? And, I think for one, it's, my kids and my wife, love me and know that I love them. And that there's, some sort of like example that I've lived out God's like best experience for my life. And, I've been using my purpose to its extent. And, I don't think I'm there at that point to where I would be, satisfied with where I'm at. And so I think there's still room to grow in that. And real estate, I think, is that opportunity for me to help those types of people like we've kind of discussed. And I could help them more. And there's more people out there. So I think, just having that, lining around my life. And that's what's been, the driving factor. So
Love that.
Well, Josh, first off, thank you for taking the time to come in here. the hour and 46 minutes we've been here
That was out.
have honestly flown by. Conversation's been great. I probably talked more in this podcast than I have in probably months.
I don't know why you're looking at me, but whatever.
Which is, it speaks to how easy you are to talk to. So,
Well, thank you. My wife says the same thing every day.
I had a lot of respect for you when you first reached out to me because we had a great conversation. I mean, you just had a lot of inquisitive questions, and I could tell you're very intelligent. And I just appreciated that whole conversation initially. It's really cool to see how you've grown. I was not lying to you when you were doing that event, and I'm like, dude, you put yourself on the map. You really set yourself apart from everybody else. So love the group that you're creating. I think it's going to get a lot bigger. And if I can ever help you, please let me know. But man, thank you so much for coming in. Great conversation.
Yeah, and thank you guys because this is a great opportunity, and you've already helped me a bunch and pointing me in the right direction and everything. I've been super supportive whenever I reach out. So Owen, maybe not so much, but
he does have RDF.
Kind of like the stepdad you're stuck with, but don't really like. Yeah, I get it.
No, I appreciate you both, and so this has been awesome and super fun. So,
And with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear and Ted Kaasch, I'm Owen Dashner. You've been listening to Josh, the only dad in the school pickup line, Kolbo, on the Kaasch and Dash Show.
Sign off.